Thank you, Jeffrey, and thank you, everybody, for being here. Good morning. Exciting couple of weeks for the Utah Mammoth. Sorry, I'm feeling the altitude already. Starting with the acquisition of J.J. Paterka last week. A young, dynamic, offensive player that complements our speed and skill extremely well. It was a great job by Bill, our assistant general managers, David Ludwig and John Ferguson, not only pulling off the acquisition, but also extending JJ to a significant commitment to our club. And we're really excited to welcome him to Utah. Really pleased with the results of the draft. Obviously, it started with our good fortune of moving up to fourth overall. And a real credit to our heads of amateur scouting, Daryl Plandowski and Ryan Jankowski, for their efforts in leading our amateur scouting staff. A lot of time and effort and energy, selfless sacrifice, a lot of hours on the road, time away from family, goes into evaluating and scouting the players that we would consider in any given draft year. And our amateur scouts do a tremendous job of making sure that when we go in those rooms and deliberate what our strategy is for the draft, that we've looked at it from a 360-degree perspective. And in this particular case, I want to credit Kevin Thacker, who is our regional scout in Quebec, who spent more time than anyone looking at Caleb Denoyer and evaluating him over the last several years, frankly. And we knew we got our man at 4, the guy that we wanted and coveted and that we think is going to be an exceptional player for this franchise for many years to come. Not only is he a dynamic and skilled offensive player, but he has great self-belief, and we believe he will do everything that he needs to do to put the work in to be a successful National Hockey League player. The rest of our draft I felt very good about. We had good balance. It's a well-rounded draft for us. I think the skill and speed and size that we've been building over a number of years has been evident throughout development camp this week, and we're really excited about the future. I'm very pleased with how our group executed the strategy going into free agency. We came out of free agency better, deeper, more experienced, and we maintained our flexibility, most importantly, for our bigger strategy as we continue to build this team. I also think that our moves in free agency continues to send the message to our young group about our belief in them, and that with every year that they are a year older and more experienced, that they can continue to push this group forward. And that the future is bright for the Utah Mammoth. Very excited to welcome Nate Schmidt and Brandon Tanev, along with Vitek Vanacek, as soon as they're able to make it to Utah for the first time. And we think they will be great complements to our existing core of veterans, bringing Stanley Cup championship experience, bringing experience playing hard, physical, meaningful games, both down the stretch and into the playoffs. And we feel we're a step closer to not only being a team that makes noise in our division, but also challenges for a playoff spot. So I want to give a lot of credit to Alan Heppel as well, who's our head of pro scouting, all of our pro scouting staff, all of our analytics team. You know, when we're in that room, I'm extremely confident in our ability to make disciplined, well-reasoned decisions because of the collaboration that takes place and the work that's done behind the scenes throughout the year. I think it's a great advantage for us. And I think Bill does a good job of leading those teams and bringing us to good decisions for the franchise. Development camp this week has been very exciting. You see the future of the Utah Mammoth, a lot of speed and skill on display, good competition, a brotherhood building between the young men who will play a pivotal role in the future of our franchise. I'd like to thank Lee Stemniak, head of our development group, for running an exceptional program this week, giving our guys the right programs to go off into their summer training and continue to get better as hockey players and closer to realizing their dreams as NHL players. I would say I also want to thank the fans that came out early in the week of development camp, taking time out of their work schedule, out of their personal lives to see the future of the Utah Mammoth. It was really neat to see them in the new branding, Utah Mammoth gear, and see that in the physical world, in the real world, and how excited our fans have been since we launched that in May. Gives us all great pride. It was a labor of love to bring that to life for our fans, and to see it being celebrated and to see those fans in the stand for development camp in Park City was was really special. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to questions.
Belle Fraser, Salt Lake Tribune. Chris, with your agent background, what was it like being on the other side of it this offseason, and maybe what unique perspective does that give the team through free agency, but also trying to get some internal contracts done as well?
Yeah, Bill, I think that's a great question. And David Ludwig, our assistant general manager, was also a former agent. And I think it's just another perspective in the room to think about how the players and their representatives might be thinking. It's another opportunity for us when we're viewing things strategically and playing out different scenarios to bring different or additional perspectives. And I think that's all you can do in any negotiation is try to collate as much information as you can and make the most informed decision and try to anticipate things from the standpoint of the other side and what their needs might be or how they might be looking at the situation themselves. And I always say, like, both parties should leave a negotiation mutually dissatisfied, feeling like they got the things that they needed, but not everything they wanted.
I'm just curious what set Caleb apart as your guy early on. And to distinguish himself from the other players that were available that all were very talented.
Yeah, I think he has a really high offensive ceiling, Cole. His speed and skill, his decision-making, but also his character as a teammate. Everything we've heard and seen, including from Gabe Smith, who's already in our system and played with Caleb in Moncton. Exceptional character, will to be an NHL player and to be a great teammate and to do everything that's necessary to set himself apart. We also feel like he has a burning desire to show that maybe he was overlooked by some of the other teams ahead of us in the draft, and we always like a player coming in with that kind of hunger and determination. You've heard it in some of the remarks that he's made since we drafted him, that he has great self-assurance and great self-belief, but it doesn't underestimate what it takes to be an NHL player. So we're excited about all of those things.
Caleb Turner with KSL.com. You mentioned Brandon Tanev, their new free agent. We had a chance to speak to him, and it seems like he's already kind of sold on the culture and kind of what's building here in Utah. How satisfying is that for you to know that an incoming free agent, someone that visited as an opposing player last year, can already see the identity of this franchise?
That's an excellent question, and I think a lot of that credit actually goes to our fans and the community and how well this team was embraced in its inaugural season, and people seeing that energy from the outside, watching our games on TV and following our team. I think it also means what we're doing is working, but that we have a lot more work to do to continue to put ourselves in position to attract the free agents that we think can make us better. That is the art and the science, if you will, of free agency. It's very rare that you're looking at a player that several teams are not also looking at, and so what are your points of differentiation? And for us, I think a player like Brandon sees the youth and energy, the trajectory of this team. He has experience and was very complimentary to his time with Bear with Team Canada. And so for a player like him, I think he knows the role and the impact that he can have here, and that gets him excited.
Could you elaborate on the Kyler Yamamoto signing and what went into the decision to bring him back?
Well, Kyler was a big part of our team last year and played well in the times that he was up with the big club, and was a key piece to helping Tucson get into the playoffs. He's a consummate professional. He understands his role. He understands where he's at in his career. He still has a lot of hunger to be a National Hockey League player. Our coaching staff trusts him when he comes up, that he can play in any situation that they need him to do so. And so for us, it's you can't have enough of those guys. I call them super utility players, right? They're willing to do whatever is necessary to help the team, and it's just good energy to be around.
Catherine Bogart, Utah Mammoth. Chris, going back to development camp, I know you touched on this, but could you expand on the importance of really using these 5 days as a learning tool so these prospects immediately from the start are taught how Utah does things in partnership with that brotherhood you touched on?
Yeah, Catherine, it's a great question. I think we're not doing a lot of evaluation in development camp. It's really about assessing where a player is and then helping to build a program that's going to help identify the areas that they need improvement, but then also continue to help them work on their strengths and better their strengths. So this week for us is really about setting expectation of what it means to be part of the Utah Mammoth, what we expect our players to put into their training and their off season or the seasons that they go back to next year, and what it will take to make our team one day. Beyond that, it's also this brotherhood, this opportunity to learn a little bit about their character and their personality beyond what we have previously assessed or researched on. And to see how they come together as a group, knowing that they hopefully will be future teammates and that those bonds are formed in weeks like this and will make it easier for them to make the transition to the team and also have an impact when they get there.
With arbitration dates coming up, where do things stand with Jack McBain? Do you think that's a route that will be needed, and do offer sheets worry you with a player like him?
Yeah, I hope not, Bill. I think we've had great dialogue with Jack and his representatives. We've made it very clear that he's an important part of our future, and we felt that he believes he's an important part of our future. So we'll continue to work on that. We're in active conversations with his representatives, and we hope we can get that done as quickly as possible. And the same goes for Logan Cooley, for that matter. He's an important part, an important piece in the future of this franchise. He's one of the most dynamic young players in the NHL. Certainly one we think is a future star in this league, and we want him to be a star for the Utah Mammoth. And we've had great conversation with his representatives. We'll continue that dialogue through the rest of the summer and hope that we can get something done ahead of the season.
With all these now signed NHL defensemen, as well as the prospects that are coming over and coming up possibly from the AHL and that kind of stuff, how do you see that defenseman roster race going during training camp?
Yeah, I think competition is a great thing. I think that brings the best out of training camp, and I also think that you can never be deeper. You can never be deep enough at that position. We faced that last year right out of the gate with injuries, in particular to Sean Dursey, and had to go out and acquire Oli Mata. He's now become an important part of our organization. And so learning from that experience and past experiences, it's important on day one that we have that depth already in the organization, and that everybody understands their role, and that they compete hard for an opportunity to make a contribution to this club this season.
Chase Beardsley, the hockey writers, for a lot of these guys, it's their first time in Utah during development camp. How important is it to get them out here and kind of get them adjusted to not just the city, but also the coaching staff and everyone around this organization?
And the altitude, as you see, I'm a year in and still struggling running up the stairs to join you guys this morning. But no, it's critical, right? For them we want them thinking about, when they're not here, we want them thinking about being here. We want them desiring to be here. We want them to understand what the opportunity is like to be here and be part of this organization, to be part of this community. The beauty of Utah is self-evident, but what really I think makes this market stand out is the community, the passion, the excitement that our fans show for our team, not just our team, but the teams, all of the teams here. But more importantly, I think there's that essence that people care about each other a great deal here and want each other to be successful and are rooting for one another. And I think getting our players into this market and having that experience, especially for the Canadian kids, which I relate this to my own experience as well. I find that the people here are very similar to what I experienced growing up my whole life in Canada. Just that sense of community and care for one another, politeness and graciousness, and we want our players to get here and to experience that and to want to come back here as quickly as possible, right? The more appetite they have to be here, the harder they'll work to get here.
Chris, organizational fit is a term that's used a lot. All the players you acquired in free agency have come from winning organizations and that. So when you're looking to fill those spots, how important is that besides, obviously skill and being able to play?
It's very important, Matt. I mean, character is everything, right, to championship organizations. And you see that the teams that win championships generally, and I'm sure there's exceptions to this, and maybe there's a bit of recency bias, but teams that win championships historically are also the closest teams off the ice. And that comes from personality, that comes from character. And so those elements are extremely important to building a championship team. We talk about not being able to make our players older or more experienced, our young core, for example. but you can bring in players that have experience and have had championship success and can put those types of good habits on display for our young players. It does help, I think, to accelerate that learning curve in a positive way. And that's the objective when we make additions like a Nate Schmidt, for example, this year, to show what it took to talk about his experience being on a champion in Florida, like Stanley did last year with Kevin Stanley when he came in to the team, and be able to relate those experiences to our young players about, how you feel in those moments, what those moments look like. And well, our players have to go through those moments themselves to truly achieve that learning. Having a sense of that going in, being able to visualize what that might be like ahead of time because they are sitting next to someone who's been through it before, I think is invaluable.
You've mentioned the fans coming to practices earlier this week, but to have youth hockey players here today watching these players compete, how can that help with the community-obsessed principle that SEG holds?
It's everything, Catherine, to be able to inspire the young kids in Utah and inspire more kids to play this amazing game that we're all very fortunate to work in. We would have loved to have been able to do our development game at Delta Center again this year and open it up to thousands of our fans, but we decided, given the footprint today, to really make the focus on youth and hopefully inspire a whole lot of young and hopefully rowdy, excited kids today. And just to touch on that, because we brought it up, I think. Just to kind of give an update where we are, we're on schedule at Delta Center with the first phase of the renovation and set to move in there, get back there for October 2nd for our first preseason game, and similarly on schedule at Southtown to move in early September as our permanent home.
Have conversations started yet with Logan Cooley in terms of a contract extension?
We've had several positive conversations with him and his representatives, and are on schedule for our plan for the summer to continue those discussions. Yeah.
Last year, you guys signed a one-year contract with the ECHL's Allen Americans as your coast affiliate. Is that a team you want to be affiliated with again?
Yeah, I don't anticipate that changing for us. It's been a good working relationship with Allen, and we're in talks with them to continue. And I think with the recent news about the Grizzlies and whatnot, and a lot of speculation around us, we really haven't had time to consider anything else. And what's working in Allen, and I think that's what we'll probably continue to do.